Daniel Teng is a director of the Epoch Times. Daniel has been with the Epoch Times since 2011 and is a regular contributor to the editorial team on China-related issues. Daniel, welcome.
Thank you for your time.
Tell us about TikTok and how many users does it have worldwide, and how is it different to other social media?
Yeah, certainly. So TikTok is probably the most popular social media app in the world today. Surprisingly, given that it's only been around for less than 5 years, and it's almost it's catching up to Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. Currently, it has over 800 million users around the world. So that's more than 20% of the world population, actually. And what's unique about it, or what's interesting about it, is that it's one of the first Chinese-backed social media apps that's really taken off around the world. So in the past, you have social media apps from China, such as WeChat or Weibo. But previously, what we found with these social media apps is their influence or their user base has been confined to Chinese-speaking populations and predominantly mainland China, where Facebook and Twitter can't compete, or really just can't use Facebook or Twitter in China. However, TikTok's managed to tap into the younger market. So Facebook, Pinterest, all these other social media apps, they've now catered to what you could call an older demographic. And TikTok has really honed in on that demographic, which is probably less than 20, so born under 1991. And it's just taken off with its format. So it essentially is, if you're using TikTok, you're scrolling through, watching videos that are made by your friends. And these videos are really short, 15-second videos. You film yourself or your family or your friends, have a bit of fun, you edit the film together, and you put a bit of music on the top. And it's been very creative. There's a lot of creativity, and the music industry is certainly trying to leverage TikTok as well.
What are some of the key concerns about the data collection, privacy, censorship and influence?
Certainly. So with data collection, I guess at the end of the day, all social media collect a certain amount of data from its user base. Now, it's the unknowns around data collection which really creates concerns. Now, the difference between TikTok and, say, Twitter or Facebook is really the governing jurisdictions that they come under. So Facebook, Twitter, they're governed by US law, and their headquarters are based in the United States. They're subject to US law, which is generally quite transparent. And recently there have been new laws that have been passed on Twitter regarding its, well, I guess you can call just how it's been controlling and moderating content. China, on the other hand, doesn't have this sort of control. In fact, if anything, Chinese law, and anyone, all the listeners can Google this, is very overt in how the state can really participate in these social media apps or in private companies. So the most often quoted law is the National Intelligence Law of 2017. Article 7 of the National Intelligence Law states that organizations or companies in China must cooperate with state intelligence work. So that's the actual phrasing of the law. Now, the implications of such a law are quite widespread, and a wide reading of it would mean that potentially TikTok, or its head office in Beijing, which is called ByteDance, is susceptible to the Chinese regime's needs. If they need intelligence or information, then by law they would have to provide that. And TikTok has collected quite a bit of data on the younger generations of Australians, people in the US, kids around Asia. So we may not see the side effects of this in the next few years, but say in 10 years or 20 years, when this generation becomes the next, the upcoming workforce or the future leaders of our country, then there are some serious risks to consider.
Well, do you see an influence from the Chinese or the CCP in Western democracies, such as the riots in throughout the US and just influencing, say, elections, Western democracies and the elections?
Well, they're already doing that with Western-owned media, which social media actually. So There was a report put out probably just a few weeks ago by the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, and it found that in the last 4 or 5 months, particularly, the Chinese state has been actively pushing narratives on Twitter and Facebook. And the number was, they counted about 25,000 Twitter accounts, which
25,000?
25,000, and which could be traced to China.
Wow.
Despite the fact Twitter is not allowed in China. So they had to do a little bit of legwork.
Mm-hmm.
And they traced bits and pieces of I guess, the patterns that were emerging from these Twitter accounts. So these 25,000 Twitter accounts, they were responsible for almost 200,000 to 300,000 tweets.
Mm.
And they were focusing on four main narratives, which was trying to change the narrative around China's handling of the virus, the coronavirus,
Mm-hmm.
Trying to denigrate Taiwan's position and Taiwan's handling of the virus,
Mm-hmm.
targeting a dissident billionaire in New York called Guo Wengui, who's caused a few issues for the Chinese regime.
He has indeed.
Yes, he has. And I believe there was one other one which kind of escapes my mind at the moment. But so what they found was with these Twitter accounts, they were tweeting during workplace hours, Beijing's workplace hours. So it became very apparent that these were actually state-sponsored, not spontaneous, but regimented tweets that were coming out.
Mm.
And the Chinese regime was trying to post out these narratives just to shift public opinion. So regarding your question there, certainly the Chinese regime is trying to leverage currently the racism riots is the fourth one that I was trying to mention. They're trying to leverage those riots and place the United States in a position of being hypocritical in that the US has no rights to criticize China when you have these major riots going on in your country around racism.
Mm.
And with the development of apps such as TikTok down the pipeline, it's not hard to imagine that when conditions are right, the Chinese regime may leverage TikTok to play the same role. And if anything, TikTok will be even more powerful in playing that role because it's already nurtured an 800 million strong user base who's quite young and quite impressionable as well.
Daniel, thank you very much. Just quickly, if somebody wants to read more of your thoughts about China, how do they do that?
Yeah, certainly. So theepochtimes.com is the website. So THE Epoch Times, EPOCH Times.com. And you'll find everything there.
Daniel Teng, thank you very much.
No worries. Thank you for your time.